To quote Graham Potter, I wouldn't say we need a major rebuild. All teams look to improve. We're not where we want to be, but we have to work together to put a team together our fans can be proud of. Right, let's forget the last bit. Clearly, we all want to be proud of the team. I'm going to go with, I won't say we need a major rebuild, which is worth delving into. It's worth talking about, and we might be dealing with semantics here. And I think for us to even remotely agree on this, we would have to agree with what constitutes a major rebuild. Is that 5 players? Is it 10 players? Is it 15 players? We're in semantics there. It doesn't matter. So it's hard to gauge really what he's saying. But if I can translate that for him, it's really a case of how many of the current West Ham squad is he happy with? Or even the first team? We don't know. We don't have, well, we do have a clue. In fact, all we have is clues, little snippets. But we don't know. We're not in on his meetings with Carl McCauley, so we haven't got a clue. But what I thought I'd do is maybe just have a little look through some of the players. And you know, I might skip a few, we might ignore the people that are out on loan, and really try and work out what's happening here. And as a little summary with the most recent news, most recent gossip, and what we've gathered from Graham Potter about who he fancies and who he doesn't. We actually spoke about Thomas Souček yesterday, and it was really interesting looking at the feedback. There's a lot of people who get rid of Thomas Souček, which is I sort of knew that it wasn't really what I was asking. It was really a case of, even if we accept that we probably are going to have to sell him, or we do sell him, whilst I wouldn't, I still just think we'd be rather silly to sell him to a relegation team. I think if he's going to go to anywhere, I think from a West Ham perspective, he'd be better off at Everton than he would at Leeds, because we don't particularly want to close that gap. But I'd sort of come to the conclusion that he was off for 3 different reasons, all of which I said yesterday. I just don't think that Potter fancies him, otherwise he'd be using him more than he does. We might be proved wrong. It may well be that Souček starts the game against Southampton. But looking through the squad, I'm trying to look at it and think, well, do you know what? Maybe, just maybe, who knows what's going to happen with a goalkeeper situation, but it would not surprise me if he sticks with Areola. I do think Vladimir Coufal is going to go, and I don't believe every player needs to be replaced, by the way. I don't think that's the case. I think we've got some that are going to come through the academy. I've got people like George Earthy who are going to come back. So I think not everybody whose contract is expiring like Coufal will necessarily be replaced. So I do think he'll go, but I do think Coufal will be replaced, and I do suspect it would be Carl Walker-Peters, and I think him, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who will definitely be staying, Ollie Scholes, who will definitely be staying, would probably share responsibilities of sort of right and left fullback or wing-back or whatever you want to call it. Can I see us bringing another one in? I'm not so sure. I don't know. Mavropanos, there was a lot of stories probably about a month or so ago that Mavropanos was going to be off. And I'm not so sure. I think Potter likes him. So actually looking at it, I think, well, maybe he won't do that either. Kilman, I think, staying. A Gerd is not worth factoring in, a Gerd, because not necessarily, even if Potter was getting rid of a Gerd, he wouldn't consider that to be a rebuild, because he never had him in the first place, did he? I suspect a Gerd will come back. The most likely person, once we've factored in that probably Coufal's going, possibly Cresswell's going, the most likely player that's not out of contract to go could well be Todibo. For all the noises that the club make about wanting to keep him, and I think they do, I'm not sure it'll be their decision. I think certainly if we get rid of Paquetá, which is looking more and more likely, as we reported a couple of weeks ago, I think if he goes, I think if Kudus goes, then I can see somebody like Todibo thinking, right, yeah, okay, I'd like to leave as well. So I think we could be looking at, we need to bring in another centre back. So I think we're going to bring in a right back. We're going to bring in a centre back, probably not a goalkeeper. What about midfield? Moving into midfield, I mean, we've got to be looking at bringing in at least 2, right? And I'm just talking about probably covering off Rodríguez. We'll get rid of him if we can afford to get rid of him. We might have to pay him off or subsidise some of his wages. I'm not convinced that Graham Potter's going to use Edson Álvarez that much. Thomas Souček, we've already discussed. So even if we just say those 3, even if he keeps Ward-Prowse, you'd think that 2 more midfielders would probably come in. So I think realistically we're at 4 players there. Then you've got to have a look at attacking midfield, I really do think Paquetá's... I really do. The only reason Paquetá doesn't go is if the court case, the hearing, the FA hearing, doesn't go his way. I think if it drags it on, then he stays at West Ham. And I sort of, from a selfish point of view, I sort of want that from West Ham point of view, because I think he's playing really, really well at the moment. But from a, from a human point of view, I don't think it's very nice for him to keep having this thing dragging on. The best thing, possibly, for everybody collectively, is if he gets acquitted. West Ham gets some money, and Lucas Paquetá can probably get on with his life. But I don't want to see him go. But I do think he will. So I think there's another one, and I think that's not... I don't think you're covering off that player with half measures or with a hidden gem. I don't think you're pearl diving for that one. I think if Lucas Paquetá gets replaced, he better be replaced with a really, really brilliant player. The type of player that can see passes that other players can't. A genius. I think we're going to need a genius, and they do not come cheap. It's very rare in these days of, I guess, microscopic scouting of players. It's very rare that a young player comes through who is not going to be known by everybody. They already know. Look, I think George Earthy's a really decent player, and he's certainly finished the season really strongly with Bristol City. But I wouldn't have him shouldering all the attacking midfield responsibilities. Somebody else I actually forgot. That's what I mean. Names will jump to me. Carlos Soler. Carlos Soler won't be here next season. That's another one. But we'll still go with the two midfielders and replacing Lucas Paquetá. So we've got a full-back, a centre-back, two midfielders, attacking midfielder. We're at 5. And I am trying to be cautious here, really. And then we start dealing with the wide players. Would we replace... I think Kudus is off. I don't know any of this stuff, by the way, but I do suspect we lose Kudus and Paquetá. And the one thing that has worried me about this, there does seem to be an assumption that we get rid of, not with everybody, but it seems to be an assumption we get rid of these players and we become a better team. I'm not quite so sure. But anyway, so they need to be replaced with top quality. Now, some may say, well, hold on a second, that's right, if Kudus goes, Somerville can play there. Well, he can play there, but you can't rely on him. We think he's a good player. We hope he's a good player. But the injury he had, as I understand it, was he's got a massively torn hamstring injury, as I understand it. It was exactly the same as the one that Saka had recently got operated on, and was on the one that Antonio got operated on. Now, it's anybody's decision. Look, let's be fair. The club are saying, oh, he should have had surgery. Well, maybe the club would say that. He's saying, well, I don't want to have surgery, and Graham Potter's backing him up. I don't know. I'm not a medical man. Who knows? But there's definitely, you would have to conclude. I was trying to... A mixture of conclude and concede. You have to concede. And there's definitely some disagreement on it. So are we guaranteed that Crescencio Somerville is going to play all next season? You probably think not. Maybe you think Luis Guilherme should start there and play there, but we don't know. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we can lose senior players like Paquetá and Kudus and not replace them. I think they need replacing. So I think we're up to 6 players there. And then there's a striker. Everything I've already said is true. When I'm talking about what I've already said, which is all the players that are going, we've got to bring these players in. We cannot rely on Danny Ings, who's going anyway. Mikel Antonio might not be getting a new deal. And Nicholas Füllkrug to lead the line next season. There's a lot of players going. Even if they don't particularly count them as West Ham players like Evan Ferguson or Carlos Soler, they're going. So we're going to need to get a striker. That's 7. And I think, right, that I'm being very, very cautious, being very conservative with the number of 7. It may well be that Kudus doesn't go, may well be that Paquetá doesn't go. And in those eventualities, maybe Todibo doesn't go. In those eventualities, I would agree with Potter. All right, maybe we don't need a massive squad rebuild. A major rebuild, as he called it. But what I would suggest is the players that need replacing are big players. So we're not even dealing with a squad rebuild. It's actually first teamers. So if we brought in this centre-back to replace Todibo, do we think he's going to play? Yes. If we bring in... Even if you think that we bring in a left-back and don't bring in a right-back, because Emerson's probably going to go, forgot about him as well, is the full-back going to play? Now, it may well be that Wan-Bissaka plays on that left-hand side, and it may well be that the new right-back comes and plays on the right-hand side. But is the full-back going to play? Yeah, I would say he's a first-teamer. I would say the centre-back is a first-teamer. Maybe something happens with a Gurge, don't know. But at the moment, I would suggest that it would be Kilman and one other, and it probably won't be Mavropanos. So I'm already looking at 2 first-teamers. What about the midfield? Well, I think one of those guys, he can't continue to play with the midfield that he's got. So he's going to, even if he really, really likes James Ward-Prowse, he's going to need to find a partner for him in central midfield. So I'd suggest that's 3 first-teamers. Replacement for Lucas Paquetá, that's 4 first-teamers. Mohamed Kudus, that's 5 first-teamers. Striker, look, either the new striker starts, which you would expect he will, or Fulkrug starts. We are dealing with either 5 or 6 first-team players who you would expect to start. So the majority of that 7 are actually in the first team. So I don't know when Potter's saying we don't need a major rebuild. Maybe he's just assessing it as in 25 players. Maybe we don't. I would argue that the 7 that he brings in, at least 5 of those are mega important. Players that are gonna play 30 Premier League games next season, at least, as long as they stay injury free. It's massive overhaul, absolutely massive. What did we do last season? 9. There will definitely be more turnaround. I'm not saying we bring in 9, but there'll definitely be more turnaround. Just look at all the loan players. Look at the people out of contract. I mean, you've got 4 or 5 players out of contract, 2 loan players. I mean, you know, there's 7 definitely going out. And that's before anyone's been bought. That's not even factoring Maxwell Cornet. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of movement. It will not. Yeah, as I say, you're picking up on semantics here, but I think it'd feel like a brand new squad. Brand new squad. So, yeah, as I say, it's all down to definition. Do you consider that to be a major rebuild or not? And I think you can't have it both ways. So a lot of people say, you know, give Potter time. Next year, when he gets his own players, will be a completely different team, and he'll be able to play his own football, and don't judge him till then, which I completely understand. And for that reason, I don't particularly necessarily believe what he's saying. Maybe he's just trying to keep the players in the club happy at the moment. Because if that's your belief that next season he's going to bring in loads of players, then he's saying, well, actually, he's not going to. Which wouldn't be the case, because you think, well, hold on, if you're not going to, then you'd clearly be. Because he said that the fans can be proud of. I think that's just been being positive. I think there's players the fans can be proud of that are leaving. I think the fans are proud of Mikel Antonio. I think the fans are proud of Thomas Souček. I think the fans are proud, definitely proud of Vladimir Coufal. So I'm not sure pride has an awful lot to do with it. More like build a team that the fans can be confident in, you know, because at the moment it's hard. Funny enough, we're playing Southampton, so this will be about the most confident we'll be all season. Southampton at home, which of course is no bad thing. But yeah, there you go. Potter's own words. West Ham do not need a major rebuild.